love stories. Hey guys, welcome back to Love Stories. I'm your host, Cheri Smith, Blue Heart Music, and this is the place where you just might learn a little bit about love while being entertained. All right, so welcome. Today's topic is my worst Valentine's Day ever. Okay, so before we get started on my worst Valentine's Day ever, I mean the worst Valentine's Day ever had in a couple. I should say that I had a lot of Valentine's Days where I was a single person, and for me those were, some of them were hard, like I might have felt isolated or just depressed about not being in a couple or something, so that can be a really hard thing. But today's topic is about the worst Valentine's Day I ever had in a couple, in a relationship. I also want to mention, if you are single around Valentine's Day, one really good thing to do is to focus on self-love. Just treat yourself. Go do a little shopping, take a nice hot bath with a cup of tea, or just go relax, like read a book, do something kind of self-indulgent. Whatever you do, just it's okay to focus on yourself and give yourself some self-love for a Valentine's Day if you want. Another thing you can do for Valentine's Day if you're single is just to celebrate somebody else that you love. It doesn't have to be romantic love. It could be your pet, could be a grandparent or a family member or a best friend, or just something. It doesn't have to be romantic love. One last idea, if you are single, one nice thing is actually to go out and hug a tree. I don't know if you've ever tried that, but one time I was feeling particularly sad and lonely, and I just decided, hey, I'm gonna go try this, and I went out and gave this nearby tree a big hug. Actually, it made me feel really good. So what the heck, just give it a go. All right, let's go ahead and hop into the story. One thing I've noticed through the years, though, is the more established the relationship is, the less I tend to care about Valentine's Day. I'm just like, whatever, just get a nice meal or something. So this particular Valentine's Day that is the subject of my story is from a long time ago. I had been in a relationship for several years, and it had become long distance because the person had moved out of town, and we kept our relationship going. And he calls me and he's like, hey, what do you want to do for Valentine's Day? And I was like, oh, cool. He's asking about it. He wants to make some plans. Awesome. So I said, well, let's go out for a nice dinner. And I'd never gotten flowers before that I could remember. So I was like, maybe you could get me some flowers. That'd be really cool. So he's like, oh yeah, totally. That sounds awesome. Great. So I was like, awesome. Okay. He'll take care of it and get everything set up. Cool. That was the plan anyway. Okay, so now it was Valentine's night, and I was very excited about this Valentine's date. I got all dressed up, all decked up, and I get a call, and it's my boyfriend. He's like, hey, can you come pick me up? And I was like, oh, okay. I didn't realize he was gonna want me to drive that night, but I was like, okay, I guess that's fine. So I go pick him up, and then I was like, okay, where are we going? And he's like, oh, can you stop by the grocery store? And I said, why? And he said, oh, because I was going to get you some flowers. I was like, oh, so you wanted me to drive, and then on the way to dinner, you wanted me to stop at the grocery store so you could get me some flowers. I was like, okay, don't worry about the flowers. Whatever. Let's just move on. So, I was kind of disappointed that he hadn't taken care of that, but I was like, no big deal. All right. So then I was like, okay, well, where are we having dinner? And he said, oh, where do you want to go? Well, oh, you didn't make reservations either. So you asked me what I wanted to do for Valentine's Day, and then you didn't bother to take care of anything. Okay, so we ended up having to drive around and look for a restaurant, and we were not in a place where they have a lot of restaurants. So we finally found a restaurant that could seat us in about an hour. So we stood there and waited, and it was just a little small entryway. We waited until we could finally be seated, and so then we had dinner. So after dinner, I was just not feeling super thrilled about this whole thing. We went to a movie, and that ended up being the saving grace, I would say, of the evening, because it was a pretty funny movie, and I like funny movies. So at least there was one good thing, but overall, pretty big disaster. So interestingly, I think we broke up about a month later after that. I think that whole evening just made me realize this guy was pretty centered on himself and not necessarily somebody I wanted to spend the rest of my life with. So what are some lessons that we've learned here? Well, a big number one is if you ask somebody what they want to do for Valentine's Day and they're your significant other, then you need to follow up on that thing. You can't just like ask them and then do nothing. Like, they're gonna expect you to do the thing unless you have some other discussion about it. So it's really important to follow up on that if you offer that out. Second lesson is communicate. Hopefully you're not with somebody who would actually ask you what you want to do and give you the impression that you have these great plans and then not actually do anything. But if you think that's a possibility, or even if you don't, it's good to communicate. Like, communication never hurts. Now, I recognize that as far as Valentine's Days go, being severely disappointed is not necessarily the worst thing in the world that could have happened. So I bet some of you have some very juicy stories, and I am hoping you will comment below and tell me a little bit about what happened to you on your worst Valentine's Day. All right, that's the end of my story, and hope you learned a few lessons there. Either way, I wish you the happiest of Valentine's Days if you happen to be watching this around Valentine's Day. Celebrate in whatever way you want, and just, have fun, enjoy it, and remember to love yourself. That's really important, especially I think around the holidays. Like, just know that somebody loves you, and you are loved, and love yourself. All right, guess what? Visual aids. I know you love this. Visual aid. Of course you do. What? Okay, anyway. Don't distract me from my visual aids here. Okay. New episode almost every Thursday at 4 p.m. Pacific time. And don't forget to like, subscribe, share with all your friends, and I want you to know you are loved, okay? That's super important. Please remember that always. You are loved. All right, thanks for watching Love Stories. I'm Cheri Smith, Blue Heart Music, and I will catch you next time.